What's going on YouTube? It's Mike here. Today guys, in this video we're going to be talking about the future of Apple now all the way up until early 2014. Before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about full screen. Here's a little fun fact for you. I happen to be with the Full Screen Network, which is the fastest growing network currently on YouTube. Since joining Full Screen last year, which my original idea was to join for sponsorships and stuff like that, my career on YouTube has completely blown up, and I'm even close to 10,000 subscribers now. If it weren't for Full Screen, I probably wouldn't be here, so I really got to give it to them. I've completely blown up with my entire YouTube career, subscribers, views, and I've been seen around the world even more. Full Screen always wants to help with content creators like you, so if you're interested in joining Full Screen, what are you waiting for? Click the link below to join right now, and I'll see you in the Full Screen forums. So the future of Apple. It's a big topic that's being thrown around. What's next for Apple? They really haven't announced anything since WWDC, and it's kind of been, on and off, especially in the beginning part of the year. We had some nice things at WWDC with iOS and OS X, but let's move on to the products. I mean, that's what everyone's all about here. And so, the question is, of course, where's Apple headed next? And one of the first things we want to look at definitely is things like the iPhone 5S, the iPad Mini 2, a low-end possible iPhone 5 or 5S, whatever they want to call it, to figure out really, if that's where Apple's headed in the direction, or that's what they're going to be looking at first, and then, later on unveil some new products, because they can't just keep, introducing new iPhones and iPads, although they will wind up doing that, but they got to bring in some new products, some new innovations, which really, quite honestly, hasn't happened in a while. So we'll get to that later in the video, but for now, let's talk about things like the iPhone 5S. Now, the iPhone 5S has been thrown around a lot now, and, versus the iPhone 6, we talked about that in an earlier video. I'm definitely going for the iPhone 5S on this one. I don't feel like Apple's going to jump right from 5 to 6, especially with the new design they have. I think Apple could stick to this for a while. Now, the iPhone 5S, we're going to be looking at a faster processor, possibly some different colors, and, that's pretty much it. It's just going to have some little spec bumps here and there. They're obviously going to have to throw in a little feature. They're going to have to do something, outstanding that'll make consumers want to buy it. They don't want it to be a fail, kind of like the iPhone 4S did. All they put on it was Siri and a better camera and a faster processor. They kind of have to do something like that for the iPhone 5S, because otherwise people aren't going to want to upgrade. I mean, if they're a 4S user or something, I could see, but Apple wants to get every last customer in there. If they have iPhone 5 users, they still want people to upgrade to the iPhone 5S. If they have 4S users and 4 users or even below, they're not as concerned, but they want to definitely get everyone, so they have to do something awesome to the iPhone 5S in order to give people a reason to go out and buy it. So, if that means putting some sort of new feature within the software, or maybe something about the hardware, maybe it doesn't scratch as easy, or dent or break as easy. There were a lot of problems with that earlier on this year. With the original release of the iPhone 5, how easily it was denting and scratching and chipping, although it did seem pretty sturdy. But, there's something like that, or even something in software, kind of like how outstanding it seemed with Siri, who uses that feature that much anyways. They could always put in something outstanding like that into the software and really give a target for people to buy it. As for the iPhone 5S, we're looking at a beginning of the fall release following the release of iOS 7, which will be public in the fall. Right now, we're in the midst of the beta stages. So there's no doubt about it, Apple will be releasing a new phone come this fall. Now, keeping the iPhone 5S in mind, a lot that's been toyed around and rumored with, which was even rumored with the iPhone 5 release originally, is a low-end costing iPhone. So, for people that just don't want to go out and spend $200, but they don't want to keep, in the down level with the 4S, or even come close to the iPhone 4, someone who wants the experience of the iPhone 5, but a little bit less for, a little bit less money. So, there have been a lot of mock-ups, some beautiful mock-ups, I will add, that have been going around, and some really nice speculations and stuff like that as to what this low-end iPhone 5S, or whatever you want to call it, could look like. And pretty much our idea is plastic, not, that glass, not the liquid metal, and just low-end. Probably the same features, maybe the same processor as the iPhone 5, maybe lower, who knows. The camera might stay the same, but there will be features that are limited that will make you figure out, hey, do I want to spend $100 or however much it winds up being for the base model, or do I want to spend $200? That's what you really have to look at. Kind of like with the low-end iPod Touch 5th generation with no camera. If you guys remember, I didn't like that too much, and I was saying how a lot of people aren't going to buy it because it makes Apple look cheap. And quite honestly, my idea of a low-end product from Apple, just hearing that term, low end. It makes Apple sound cheap, which is something they never have been. And I mean, there have been several failures of Apple, but you know, they already have a low-end iPod Touch, so this could possibly be aiming for the low-end iPhone 5 or 5S, whatever it may be. So I just personally, I don't think it's going to be a good idea for Apple because it doesn't make them look right. Why would they be missing features? Of course it's going to be for a lower price, but that almost doesn't seem right. We'll wind up seeing what Apple does with the low-end iPhone 5 or 5S. Quite honestly, though, I don't think Apple's going to do it, or they could. The only way it would make sense for Apple to do the low-end iPhone 5S is because, you know, they already have the low-end iPod Touch 5G. That's what we really speculated when Apple did that. Oh yeah, they're definitely aiming toward this low-end iPhone model. Let's move away from iPhones for a second and talk about the iPad mini, a favorite of all. And definitely one of my favorites. I take this any day over the regular size iPad. I feel like the regular size iPad just feels obsolete and too heavy. But honestly, with the release of the iPad mini, I felt like there was a little bit missing, and it was a little bit obsolete too, especially when I saw the display on this guy. Now, there's been a ton of speculation that the next iPad mini is going to contain a Retina display, which I don't doubt at all. Why wouldn't Apple put that in? And so they'll definitely still be selling the iPad mini, probably going to bump it down to $229 maybe, or whatever it may be, and they'll probably bump the iPad mini's price up to like, you know, $369 or $359, just because they'll put a faster processor into it, and, you know, they'll bump it up a little bit. The camera might be a little bit better speed, and they'll definitely put the Retina display in. Quite honestly, if I had a Retina display on my iPad, I'd be extremely happy. You know, that would definitely give me a reason to go out and buy it. Kind of like they did with the iPad 2 and 3. You know, the next one, they put the Retina display right in. So I am all for it and definitely think that Apple's going to be including the Retina display into the next iPad mini. And, you know, either that'll be called the iPad mini 2, or most likely it's going to be called iPad mini with Retina display, kind of like they don't call it iPad 4 or iPad 3, they call it iPad with Retina display. So it'll probably be iPad mini with Retina display. Apple's just got to figure out the technologies, and it's honestly been rumored too that this could be a little bit delayed. So if we're going to see that release, it's probably going to be this fall. And like just as I said, there's actually even been rumors that we might see an 18-month gap between the iPad mini, the first generation release, and the second generation release. You know, there might be a little bit of a delay because Apple's just working so hard to make these displays. So these devices are a definite possibility. You know, we got our iPhone 5S, our low-end iPhone, and our second generation of the iPad mini. We're all probably going to see this in the fall. Definitely, you know, with some refreshed Macs. Love to see a refresh of the MacBook Pros, by the way. Is looking to get a Retina model soon. You know, probably have to look into that. But, you know, Apple missed updating them at this year's WWDC. It was all about software, and that only. The previous year, there was a little bit more hardware. You know, this year, there really wasn't any. It was just software. So I'm pretty sure that there's going to be some Mac updates when we get closer to the fall, along with the iPhone and iPad mini updates. Now, looking at the even brighter, further future for Apple, you know, what's really going to happen next? Because we're just going to keep, it seems like Apple's just going to keep adding these numbers and new devices, just keep re-innovating. There kind of has to be sort of a new innovation. And so Apple has to look at what's going to be the next big thing. And right now there's three main sort of topics, or next innovation. What's the next big thing from Apple? And those are the iTV, the Apple TV. Obviously, you know, the Apple TV is, but I'm talking about the real TV, the Apple gaming console, and which is a very small one, and also the iWatch. And these are all three products that have never came out from Apple, except we'll make the exception with the Apple TV there because, you know, it does exist. I'm talking about a real full TV. Okay, so we'll call it iTV, the iWatch, and the gaming console. And these are three very big topics that Apple just hasn't looked at yet. Three innovations just waiting to be innovated, I guess you could say. And so, you know, when we're looking at things like the Apple TV, it's something that's been rumored for the last 2 or 3 years, and that's pretty much just going to be a regular size TV, you know, that Apple's going to manufacture themselves. It'll probably come in 1 or 2 sizes, and it's going to have the Apple TV software built in, but it's going to be even better. And I've talked about this in an earlier version probably of my iTV video. There will be a link in the description to go check that out. That really gives full detail on everything, you know, everything about the Apple TV. There's been some really nice mock-ups, but the real question is, what is Apple going to do? We can't just take the set-top box Apple software and just put it into a TV and sell it. That wouldn't make sense. You see, they have to kind of redesign all the software and add more into it. So there's a reason for people to buy an Apple TV, you know, so that people stop buying Samsung TVs and Sony and Panasonic, whatever TVs you want to go with, and they have a reason to go out and buy Apple TV. You could put cable into it. You can stream everything. You go hook up game systems to it. It's all in one. There's no reason to be using a different TV. That's what Apple has to really look at. That's how they put, the music industry with all different MP3 players out of business. That's how they did it with phone companies. That's how they're the world's most popular phone, and that's how they'll continue to do it, and that's how they'll innovate with further products. And looking at things like the iWatch, which has been rumored too, that's a product where you'll be able to put it on your wrist, be able to have it sync up with your phone, messages, phone, reminders, you name it. It's all going to be there, and you don't have to take out your phone. It's right on your little wristwatch there, and it'll be a wristwatch that Apple sells. And actually, only recently, wristwatch, smart technologies that hook up to your phone have really started to get popular. This has been rumored by Apple for quite some time too, and kind of to have it, built in with your phone and everything is something that Apple could really sell too. And I see a lot of people using it, to be able to have everything right at their wrist, without having to take the phone out of their pocket. And recently there have been some very nice mock-ups and speculations at the iWatch, and so hopefully Apple will be aiming for something like that soon. And the last little thing is Apple's gaming console. I mean, well, Sony and Microsoft are beating the crap out of each other with these consoles. Apple's got a little small chance to step in since, they're two very popular game console companies, let alone Microsoft. I mean, they got tons of different businesses, but Apple really hasn't stepped into this since 1996 when they had like a little involvement in this gaming system. But since then it's really been nothing. Apple's created the Game Center platform and stuff like that. But it's been rumored that Apple's going to be looking at some sort of future game console that you'll be able to play all the current titles and future titles with, but it'll play on Apple's gaming system. And if Apple puts that out, that's just another next innovation. I don't know if I see that being like a new most popular item, but it'll just be there. So it's not only do they sell phones and computers and iWatches and tablets and TVs, but they also sell, they do everything. Now it can't always be a good thing, because if they're just throwing things in there, it's going to be bad, because it's going to be sitting on shelves and people aren't going to buy it. Kind of like things like the iPod Classic or the current Apple TV now. Some of the worst failures sitting in the Apple stores today. So it just won't do well, and it'll be no point for Apple to even waste time on or develop. I feel like Apple with I just feel like the gaming business is not for them. Unless they put years of research and development into it and really got something good. There's been some speculations here and there, but it's not something I really see. I just figured I'd bring it up because it's been rumored like crazy lately. But two things I definitely see out of these three are definitely the iWatch and the iTV. And unfortunately for the rest of 2013, that's not a very close possibility. Maybe the iWatch, but right now it looks like we're going to be looking at mid-late 2014 for these products. That's just professional speculations. There's nothing we could do about them, unfortunately. And guys, that's pretty much it. That is the future of Apple. That is my whole take on it, with current devices like iPhone 5S, low-end iPhone, and, the next iPad mini, and even the iPad 5. Whatever will happen with that. And then also, what's going to be in the future with things like the Apple gaming console, the iWatch, the iTV, who knows what's going to be next. And that's really what Apple's got to figure out, the next innovation, because we cannot just sit here counting new iPhones. But that's it for this video, guys. If you liked it, please leave some comments below on your thoughts. Of course, rate, give this video a thumbs up, and subscribe. Click the button below. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace. I just noticed my screensaver's been going for the past 10 minutes.